I see a lot of co-founders, when they sell a business, they said, okay, I want to now do my bucket list. I'm 55, I'm 50 years old or whatever. After a few months of their bucket list, they become bored. So I said, something is not right.
Welcome to the Accomplish Impact Podcast, a space where we explore what it truly means to accomplish in life with a focus on purpose-driven leadership. We'll be releasing new episodes every other Tuesdays at 6 a.m, so be sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover the inspiring journeys of leaders who are making an impact. In each episode, we sit down with visionary business leaders who are not only achieving remarkable success, but doing so with a deep sense of meaning and purpose. I'm your host, Benjamin, and in today's episode, we're joined by Kay Yip, CEO of Maran Resources, a leader in timber products, land, construction, and renewable energy. He also has invested in brands such as BFM, OSC Orthopaedic Center, and founded well-known brands such as Jobstreet and Didian. So glad to have you here, Kay Yip.
Thank you, Ben, for hosting this podcast, and I hope to share some of the stories that I've been through as a business person in this short time.
So, Kate, for the people that perhaps don't know you so well, could you maybe just briefly introduce yourself?
Maybe you can look at me as a second-generation business person. My father started a business many years ago as a young man, and through events and circumstances, I came to help him and slowly took over his business. But at the same time, I discovered that I also enjoy starting businesses, and I was given the freedom to start and invest in different businesses. And in a way, I find it very fulfilling to start something from scratch and then to build it up and see it succeed. And one after another becomes therapeutic, it becomes fulfilling. So now I call myself a serial entrepreneur.
That's very interesting. Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of your works. You've been a part of many companies, co-founding companies like Jobstreet, Didian, and also being heavily invested in companies like BFM and OSC Orthopaedic Center. And today we're talking about what it means to build a lasting legacy. And for you, Kay, you've built a lot of companies, a lot of successful brands. But what do you think it means for you to build a lasting legacy?
Ben, it's an interesting topic, something that have been in my mind for the last year or so, because I'm going through that aging process. At the same time, legacy is something that as we understand and observe businesses, it is a question that is natural in everybody's mind, because we don't want to do a business and just shut it down, right? So the first thing I want to set a disclaimer is that what I'm about to share and what I'm going to say is not that I know a lot. I'm in the process of discovering. So I hope to also hear what other people say. But what I do know is that from my observation, you can look at legacy as different levels. One level is the processes and the systems. And that is something that companies over time, they develop their own system of doing things, and also the processes, right? So passing that down is successfully, the good practices is important. That's quite easy, The second part is leadership. And that's the one that you try to bring in a family member or have a continuity in your business. And you are given that runway to actually impart your values to the successor. And that is also the time where you can, what your values, how you conduct business, how you treat stakeholders, how you value a deal, how do you build people up, how do you, every company will have their own value system and the character, right? And you need to spend time with the next in line to actually impart it, and there's continuity. So that's the second level.
Yeah.
And the final level, which I think is more interesting and less talked about, is the spiritual level. I believe that a company should have a spiritual sense of direction. And that is the exciting part. And that's the part that will continue generations beyond if we discern it correctly. And if we have a spiritual element in the company, then at least we have confidence and hope that it will last many generations. So I think these are the three levels: it's the systems, the values, and the company's culture, then the spiritual.
Yeah. I think I like how you put it. It's so structurally and beautifully put, right? So it's about, so the first one is about system, processes, second is about cultures and values, and then about the spiritual level. But for probably some of our listeners, perhaps they're maybe a bit younger, why should they care about leaving a legacy?
I think human nature is such that we want to improve. We want to build on our success stories. I mean, you look at education. One of the reasons why Western education universities have taken off is because they have a legacy. They're able to pass down and write down the knowledge of what they're learning, and the next generation builds on it. And that has been the success of most of the universities we see, right? Which we somehow haven't seen that much in the Eastern part of the world. And that's something that we can learn, right? And at the same time, when you build a legacy, there's always stories. History is part of legacy. And it is important to have the history of your company, your family, embedded in the legacy, so that it is these stories that make that business or that legacy interesting. Right? Otherwise, it's going to be very cut and dry.
Yeah. And for you, what was your turning point that you decided that, okay, I have to start building a legacy? Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't on day one. You already knew from the beginning that you wanted to build a legacy. What was that turning point for you, or what's that realization?
Actually, it's a good question, Ben, because as I go through my different journeys in different companies, and I see a lot of my co-founders when they sell a business, then they said, okay, I want to now do my bucket list. I'm 55, I'm 50 years old or whatever. I want to do my bucket list. And then I observe that after a few months of their bucket list, they become bored. So I said, something is not right.
Yeah.
And then I also observe a lot of businesses, how they fail because of internal conflict. Then I also see businesses that pass on just professionally. There's no family involvement. So it's just a company coming in and then turning it into a profit center, right? And I believe that there should be something more to it than just a business for profit. I think, and that's where I think legacy, I don't know what's the right word to use it as legacy, but I think a generational continuation, if you're given the platform to build a business, then we should do it for many generations. Yeah, that turning point, when it happened, I suppose when you hit the 50s mark, then you start to think about it. I'm just glad that I'm so far given the runway to start thinking about it and to implement it.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to building a legacy, it takes time, right, Kay Yip? And perhaps for people who maybe they feel like, yeah, I don't have to think about it now. And like you said, it's all about trying to improve ourselves as humans, right? It's human nature to want to improve ourselves. But yeah, what then is your advice for business leaders who want to build a legacy, but at the same time also have to balance, running the business, ensuring that their business survives? Because perhaps there are businesses out there who are probably, in a sense, not so fortunate that they've got a lot more struggles, a lot more firefighting that they have to do. How does a business leader then manage the business, making profit financially, but also at the same time ensuring that they're able to build that legacy?
I guess it's important to have a business model that is sustainable. Right? That's the first premise. So you can only build a legacy if you have a business model that is sustainable already.
I think at the end of the day, it's also like seeing the opportunities that you have, right? Because I think, like you said, that you were given the opportunity to have the right circumstances to be able to grow this company and grow, like for example, Maran Resources, right? And it's also about using what you've been, in a sense, blessed with to also build that legacy, right? Is that what I hear correctly?
I think I just share a bit of my story. You know, when I never wanted to be a business person. I was studying in America. I was keen on academics, and I was interested in being an engineer and to do a good job in engineering. But circumstances forced me to come back, or rather circumstances made me ponder, and I decided to come back to a business that was my parents. They did a good job, but they entered into a slightly difficult season. So I wanted to come and help, and then it's only then that I stumbled into this business world. Then we turn it around and we have opportunities to grow and to diversify. And that is where, when I look back at events and people, is it accidental? Is it spiritually directed? Is it coincidental? Now as I am older, you look back into these events, then you see something that is spiritually powerful, you know. And I think also while doing that, you then also start thinking of legacy, because it's important to if you have something that is successful, to continue building on it and to expand it, right?
Yeah, so thanks, Kate, for sharing your story on how you entered into business. And I see that, you decided to join the business. You, in a sense, kind of continued that legacy of your parents. Do you think there's anything that, your parents did that, in a sense, empowered you to be able to continue on their legacy?
I think at that time, we weren't thinking so much of legacy, but survival. So it is that's why I came back to help out in the business. And so at that time, when I came back, I think the good thing about my parents is that they were not restricting me. I was given the freedom to do what I want. But at the same time, there's a lot of, I would say, generational communication gap that we got to overcome. And sometimes it can, be unpleasant, but because of that family bond, we never let it become stay long, So all along we have I have a lot of mutual respect for my parents and how they do things, and in general, we were able to overcome all these generational gaps.
Yeah, I think that's the difficult thing about building a legacy, especially between families, because between generations, there's a lot of different styles in communication, in terms of leadership, and even how they run things on a daily basis. As whether a business owner or someone who's taking on a business, do you have any advice on how to bridge that generational gap to continue building that legacy and continue to maintain those values, but at the same time, how do you bridge that, change in generation, change in culture, or shift in perspective?
I think it's important to have transparency in communication, and to have a lot of respect from a younger person to older person. And even though they may say things that may not make sense at that time, but to not just, my experience, is not just, don't just retort back. Let it sink through. There must be 1% or 2% of what they say that is true. So it's a matter of filtering it and thinking through what are they trying to say, because they may not be able to communicate like an MBA kind of graduate, right? So they just, based on their life experience, and tell you certain things. So you need some discernment to appreciate what they are trying to say in those few words. And also because my parents are Chinese, my father is a Chinese educated, so he wouldn't understand English that much. So there's a different in culture also, right? So you need to not just generational but cultural.
I think there needs to be quite a deep and clear understanding, especially when you want to bridge that gap, because otherwise things can get pretty messy and you aren't able to build the legacy, right?
I think that's where it's important to have common values. That to know that at the whatever happens, right? He's still my father and my parents, and then at the same time, the good thing is that he honors God. So we know that whatever we do, God is still in control. And because of that, that is a big glue that allow us to overcome any misunderstandings. So thank God for that.
I think as long as your core and foundational beliefs and values are the same, then as much as you can fight and disagree on things, you still agree on those core values and you still agree on those same things. Moving back to talking about building that legacy, you talk about the 3 metrics in which we are able to build legacy on. How does a business leader, or how does even maybe a team leader or anyone in business decide or measure themselves to see if they've hit the metric of, am I building a legacy?
I suppose you need to see the results. If the processes can be repeated and you're able to do more automation and push it more, and you don't need more resources to build on the processes, that shows that you are becoming more efficient and more productive, right? So the idea is, when it comes to processes, how do you simplify them rather than make it more complicated? That is my thinking. In terms of values, I guess the best validation is from people close to you, outsiders who are able to point out your blind spots, and then and also to tell you what are your strengths, and you need to filter out those people who are just exaggerating. But otherwise, you can kind of understand and know what are the things that you need to eliminate and what are the things that you need to strengthen. Right. And on the spiritual level, I guess the most important thing is to have a relationship with God, not on a religious level, but on a personal level, right? So if you are able to have a relationship with who you say God is, and to hear Him speak to you, and to see then events unfold, and this is in alignment to what you see, then it gives you that affirmation and also gives you that hope. And that's what makes it very exciting. Because rather than saying, I want to just make money, I want to pass on something that is that is only for the next generation and keep them comfortable. I think that's not what it should be. It should be something that will build their spiritual sensitivity, and also to build a character, right?
I think from what I see is that there's a certain shift in attitude and shift in your posture when looking at building legacy. It's not just about making the most money for, like you said, not making the most money for my children or being the biggest company, but also how can your company impact people and also impact others, right? And how do you then see people who are building a legacy? Are there any key attributes that these people have, any key values that these people hold that you see makes them successful in building a legacy?
I think every business is different. For us, I think fortunately I was able to put into a diagram what I want the company to be built on, the foundation of our company. And one of the things I notice about our company is that our staff tend to stay a very long time in our company for good reasons, right? So they're very loyal. We have people who worked from my father's time until now, you know, like 10 years is very short time for us. And that is something I didn't know until recently. I took for granted until some people pointed out, and I realized that it is a good trait. And when you have that trait, how do you then maintain that family value in a company, right? So that the staff feel secure and they feel a sense of belonging, whether they are whatever post they are doing, right? Yeah. So that is something that I notice. Yeah. And the other thing I notice is that we are quite, our family is quite enterprising. So we tend to like to see businesses and especially grow them from the beginning. And then when we do that, right, we always go through struggles. But somehow we have persevered, and somehow we have sustained ourselves. And it is those challenging periods that actually build our personality and our character, and to appreciate life in general as being more meaningful.
Yeah, I think so. I think I catch two things. One is in terms of having that loyalty in the family, right? And then I think the second thing is on being able to build the culture and build the relationship with one another. And I think we also talk about, you know, your staff being with you for long periods of time, to have loyal staff. And I think when it comes to building a legacy, obviously you can't do it alone. You need to have a team behind you who's able to build that legacy with you. What do you think is any advice or anything that you've done with your own team to ensure that they can build that legacy together with you?
I would say the most important thing is to be authentic. I mean, who I am at home or at work or meeting clients or it's the same. I don't have a different. I'm at ease talking to you or talking to anybody, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important because I noticed that some certain people are very strict with their employees, and then they become a different personality when they meet clients. I find that very stressful. I just prefer to be who I am and be comfortable in my own skin, and I think maybe that helped a lot. I don't know. Maybe you tell me.
Yeah. I think that's so important because at the end of the day, you aren't able to build the legacy if you're a different person at home, you're a different person in a meeting with a client, and you come back to office, you're a different person, right? I think it's that consistency in who you really are. And at the end of the day, your true values will show. Your true values will show. Whether you try to mask it with clients or even in work, the work that you do, I think your true values will show. And if you're not consistent, then you aren't able to make an impact because people won't believe in you, people won't have faith in you and trust in you.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. And I think maybe looking back, was there any struggle you had when trying to build that legacy? Because I mean, now you are, like you said, you've already thought about it, and I'm sure you're in the process of ensuring that you'll be able to build that legacy and strong foundation. But what do you think were the biggest struggles, whether now or in the past, that you faced when building the legacy?
Ben, I think you used the word legacy as though I've been thinking for a long time, but not really.
Yeah.
I think all along we've been trying to build a business.
Yeah.
But over the last 5 years, I had a change in mindset because I did business school. Then you go into the Western management mindset.
Yeah.
And then you learn how to do business by having good systems and good KPIs and all that, right?
Yeah.
But during my time in Accomplish, I then had the privilege to visit some in Indonesia. Then I'm also attended some talks, and that's where I learned that through one story, they said that, look, in the management school, you learn to manage people so that they can build your business.
Yeah.
But why not you build people so that they manage your business? So that was a turnaround in thinking. that I think is a turning point in how we should view a business. And so there was one story when this trainer, he left his business to be a trainer, a manager of a depot. And he said that it was in Indonesia, right? So he said that after restructuring the business and the people become people rather than just objects, there was an incident where one of the staff said that, look, I have another another job opportunity that's paying me double the salary. So then the manager, who's now the trainer, said, I bless you, just go ahead, it's double the salary we can afford. So, but then she came back 2 weeks later and said, I decided to stay. Then he asked why, and he says, because working here is like heaven on earth. So it's not just the money, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are stories that inspire me to then how to make our businesses a place where people can feel secure, feel loved, and also it's not just monetary.
Yeah. I think then talking about that, have you applied anything in the practical sense for your team or employees to, like you said, have that heaven on earth sort of culture?
Yeah, I think if you look into our mission here as a company, I decided in 2020 to map out our foundation. And the foundation of business is based on the word love.
Yeah.
And we will, for the word L, is to love and honor God in what we do. And whatever faith you're in, we want to encourage people to have that, to know who God is and to love God, right? And for all, we want to build outstanding employees by educating them, by training them, and also by upskilling them. Then in V, we want to value the stakeholders, whether it's an environment, creditors, staff, our buyers, our suppliers. We want to value everybody. And E is excellent financial discipline, which we think is important. We know it's important to practice this excellent financial and to be efficient in what we do. And I always tell my team, right, that what you learn here is not just in the company. You bring it home with you to your family. And even if you leave our company and you join another business or another company, or you start your business, you have this flywheel effect. And I think if you have this flywheel effect, you'll be okay, right? So I think it's important I felt it's important that they all know that you come to work, it is not 9 to 5, because what you learn, you bring it home.
Yeah.
So that they can continue with it, right? So that way they are able to bless their family. So that's something that we try our best to do. So every year we got a different team. Like this year we want to have a team of excellence. How do you then have that spirit of excellence, which is not just what do you call that? Propaganda word. I don't know what you call that. What does it mean, right? So we're going to tell stories over the coming year to give people the sense of what excellence is all about.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, because earlier you talked about authenticity in your own life, and then now you're sharing with us that you also want your staff to embody that authenticity, that they share these values of LOVE in their lives, not just in their work, and that they bring it home, they bring it with them for the rest of their life. And I think that says a lot about you as a leader, that you want your people to also model after you, and you empower them to do. And what about business leaders who perhaps maybe are now only starting to think about building a legacy? What do you think are the first few practical steps for them to, dive deeper, or, the first step that they have to take?
I guess involving yourself in a community of like-mindedness is the most important. It's only when you share stories, say you're a business leader, you want to also be in a group of other business leaders and you with similar values, right? Then you can learn from each other. If we do it alone, it's kind of tough. You need to bounce ideas off other people of similar value. So I am quite, well, I'm blessed that number one, I'm in accomplished, and number two, there's a church plant in this building called Workplace at River, which is a workplace church,
Yeah.
right? So in a way, they bring business leaders to the church every couple of weeks to share about how they integrate work with faith. So it is these stories like this that you get inspired and also learn, right? Yeah. So yeah, both of these, communities.
Yeah, I see. I think community is such an important thing because especially as a business owner, it can be a bit of a lonely journey sometimes, not knowing who to talk to or share with. And I think moving on to the church plant, you mentioned that there's a church plant here, right here in Wisma Maran. Maybe you can share more about it and your involvement.
Sure. I think when I rededicated my life to the Lord again in 2012, that was when I started to build myself up in knowing who I am rather than trying to do too many things.
Yeah.
Who I am as an identity, who I am as a person, as a creation of God. And then after a while, I become more secure. I understand. Then I say, then it shouldn't be just myself.
Yeah.
Then it should be also about other people, right? And the best people are always my team members, my colleagues.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, they're the obvious people. So that's when Alpha started in the workplace. Then I asked Alpha to have a season with us in my office. And when they had it, then they saw this place as strategic and asked whether they could have a space here. Then I said, of course, if you think you can use this to reach out, then I'm more than happy. And then I found out that the church actually was praying for a place for a year already. So it is, again, as I mentioned, a confluence of circumstances that happened, and we're privileged then to have this church plant. So I think, which is I mentioned to you, when you build a legacy, you need to understand and discern the spiritual significance of something. So when this happens, then you feel that legacy is actually in the scriptures, right? So it is there all along.
Yeah.
It is staring at our face. So then it becomes more important that I stop thinking of a bucket list and start continue working.
Yeah. I think the problem we have is that if we don't think of the future generation, even building a legacy, it can be so narrow-minded and in a sense maybe a little bit selfish, right? Yeah, that we think, okay, I need to do these things for myself. But I think I like what you do. You have thought of the wider impact of your actions. You've thought about what am I going to leave behind, even after I'm gone, or even if I decide to stop, being CEO or hand it to the next generation. I think that's so beautiful. And I think.
I think Ben, this came to my mind, but I think I don't think a legacy is something that comes to my mind every day. I don't think of it. It may be subconscious.
Yeah.
Right. But I think more important as we keep doing things right, the legacy will fall into place.
Yeah. That's true.
So you don't make it conscious in your mind that I want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
I think it's more important that how do we then what is our mandate, what's our calling, and as long as you do it and you enjoy what you do, I believe that your legacy will be built.
Yeah.
So I would say spend less than 5% of your time thinking about legacy and 95% of the time doing your work.
Yeah, that's true. So thank you, Kate, for sharing. I think as we come to a close, what do you think is one thing that you want the listeners to take away if they forgot everything that you shared today? What is that one takeaway that they should remember?
I think enjoy your work. And if you know the purpose of why you work in a deeper level, and it's in alignment with your heart, then you will not think of retirement. You only want to just keep enjoying every day as though it is a privilege. One of the people that I like to follow is Warren Buffett. And every year he writes a letter, and he's 90, I think 94, 95 this year. He writes a letter to shareholders, and he always ends with this sentence: "Every day I tap dance to work."
Wow.
Right. So, yeah, I'm not good in. I don't know how to dance, but at least I walk with a spring in my step when I come to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's so good. Yeah, I think the takeaway for me is that to really have that change of perspective, right? That we are doing work not because for money, not because we want to, be the best person, but that we want to leave something behind, and we want to do it well and excellently. So yeah, thank you so much, Kate, for being on
Most
the
welcome.
Accomplished podcast. So yeah, thank you, Kate, so much for being on the show. Really appreciate to have you here. Yeah, and hopefully we can hear more from you in the future.
Sure. Thanks, and thank you for hosting. And we can enjoy our lunch now.
Thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of the Accomplished Impact Podcast. We release episodes bi-weekly on Tuesdays at 6 a.m. So if you haven't already, we encourage you to subscribe. We're on Spotify as well as YouTube. You can also follow our social media at accomplished.asia on Instagram and TikTok, where we post snippets of this podcast. If you want to find out more about the Accomplished community and how you can be a part of it, drop us a DM on our socials or email us at hello@accomplished.asia. We'll see you in the next one.